What is the worst thing to say to a grieving person? Everything happens for a reason. As someone who lost a loved one last year to a very painful and torturous death to pancreatic cancer, hearing people insist that there was some reason for her to endure a slow, agonizing death was beyond infuriating. No one deserves that, and no reason could ever justify it. God had a plan for this one. Gestures vaguely at pretty much everything. Apostrophe. Used to be a Christian, but that turned me away from being Catholic real quick as a teen, when my grandfather was suffering in bed after a stroke. I can't remember the exact line of questioning, but I remember a question vaguely, whether God is an indifferent God that's content in letting the worst happen, or if God is actively vengeful and wants us to suffer, as well as God's use to us in either scenario. I know how you feel. I lost my goldfish last week. Apostrophe. God, and then they go ahead and rant about that fucking goldfish for like an hour. Honestly, I never ever talk to them, at least not about my problems. I'm sorry for your loss. Move on. Apostrophe. Not like losing a pen, is it? Would you like a pen? Whenever people say, essentially, that there is a bright side to your loved one dying, they're in a better place. If he was such a good person, God wanted him or her to be with them. You are still young. You'll find someone else. At least you have mom/dad/kids/other family. When my mom lost my brother in childbirth, she got that one a lot. At least you have Miss Impossible. FFS. That was very tone deaf to your mother's grief. At least there's a backup kid. Like that changes her loss at all. Someone I used to work with said, in jest, I am pretty sure that after she had her first kid, she realized, I love this little shit so much, I'm not gonna be able to cope. If something happens to him, better get a backup. The backup kid is fucking awesome. Cute in jest. Like the frame I bought my friend when she had her first kid. At the bottom was a slide that said bundle of joy on one side and tax deduction on the other. Get over it. This one's brutal in any situation. You don't just get over losing someone you love. It gets easier the more you lose. Do you need help with that? God needed another angel. Apostrophe no, actually, I needed my mom. As a child growing up in a splinter Baptist church, I would always hear it's part of God's plan, or God moves in mysterious ways. I always thought that God was a selfish ass. God wanted another angel. Is one that gets me. Like, supposedly this dude made the whole universe out of nothing. I'm sure he doesn't need to kill a living person if he wants another angel. Something similar to this was said to me when I was 6, and my little brother passed away. That was the day that I stopped believing in God. It made no sense. This is definitely not something to say to someone that is grieving. He brought this on himself. Well, he did try to juggle the world's largest boulder. He died doing what he loved. The woman's husband had a shotgun though. I used to work at a funeral home. Are you okay? Or how are you doing? Are two big ones to avoid, because of course they're not okay. Isn't he? How are you doing? A great question. I heard from many people who lost a loved one that people actually got scared/uncomfortable asking that question, and that makes people very lonely in their time of grief. I really appreciate it when friends or acquaintances ask me something like, hey, if you don't feel like talking about it, that's totally okay, but how are you doing/feeling? I ask them this. After I lost my mother, I was surprised at how no one was asking how I am feeling. I wish someone had. I wanted to tell someone how I was feeling. I ask people how they are doing, if they want to talk, and that I am willing to listen. It felt that silence was the worst. It doesn't matter what people said, everything except silence was fine. You are so right. After my father died, my in-laws came to visit. They assiduously refused to mention that my dad had died, and if I mentioned anything to do with him in passing, they would nervously change the subject, as if not bringing it up would keep it off my mind. Their behavior actually caused me to focus more and more on his recent death. I was so annoyed. They were old enough, and had lost enough loved ones, to have had a better understanding of grief. Yes, for me, it was after my mother's murder. It was top news anyway in the local media, and I was unfit to work, and then unfit to return to office for a while. It didn't matter how awkward I was approached. The only hurtful part were those who pretended nothing had happened. Everyone who said, no matter what, showed more respect. The hardest part, for you, is over now. I would never feel that caring for a loved one with a terminal illness is a burden, even when it led me to give up a number of things. I'd gladly give up an easier life for just one more day with my loved one. Yet, they are in a better place. At least they aren't in pain anymore. God has a plan. He is taking care of her, my mom, or everyone. If there are people who have it worse, you know what that's like. My dog/cat/grandparent died. Nothing close to losing your mother, right? Just simply say you are sorry for our loss, and let us talk about it. If we open up, the amount of insensitive things I've been told after my mom died will stick with me forever. Also, don't assume we should get over it, or that we talk about it too much. We are grieving, and grief lasts forever. It comes in waves, and can be triggered at the most random moments. I had someone say that to me last week. Get over it. Everyone is sick of you talking about it. Your therapist doesn't care. Your family doesn't care. That's awful. That person doesn't deserve to be in your life. When you are ready to start dating again, on a similar vein, now that you are single, would you consider going out with me one day? Fears only oatmeal for dinner. I cannot. It's ok, you don't have to. Your loved one is in a better place now. So I have this amazing opportunity I think you'd be perfect for. Good ones always die young. Bro, that was my grandma. Great-grandma always had a way with words. You'll feel better in time. It's hard, but it isn't compared to losing more immediate relation. I had people tell me shortly after I lost my grandparents that it's upsetting, but not as bad as losing an actual parent, as if I was too sad about it, because they weren't my parents or something. So incredibly unhelpful. Right? Yeah, one of friends who I was living with at the time said something similar. Felt like killing him. It's just a terrible thing to say about someone, that they weren't as important as. I am over it, I swear. I am sorry this happened to you as well. Even if you left you in this case being yours, or my friends right secretly have the thought that your loss of a parent/sibling/partner/child is worse than losing a grandparent, you should keep that to yourself. It's not forever. It was bound to happen. It's not untrue. Life carries a 99+% mortality rate. I'm giving myself some wiggle room, as there are people still alive as I type. Life carries on. It could be worse. God has a plan. Anything to the effect of get over it. We're all gonna die someday anyway. It's gonna pass is such a lazy, uncaring, disinterested comment. It's your fault. Sorry, man. I am having trouble giving a shit about this. So, now that you're single,